So, welcome to our second Plotly Hangout. Now, these hangouts are a space where you can meet and interact with data scientists and data analysts merged in the world of data visualization, Plotly, and Dash. Hey, Jeannie. You will often hear from our guest speakers about their professional experience, the journey that brought them to where they are today, as well as the lessons that they learned along the way. Your participation in the Hangout is highly encouraged. I really encourage everybody to participate because the more you participate, the richer the Hangout will be. So your participation will be in the form of questions or comments. Feel free to unmute yourself or join us on camera and ask our speaker anything that you would like. If you're more of a chat person, definitely use the Zoom chat feature to share your comments or questions at any time. Just reminding you that this session is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube and LinkedIn later this week. Before we get started with our guest speaker, I would like to mention two major events. So first, Plotly will be attending, I do want to mention that Plotly will be attending the Data AI Summit by Databricks the week of June 10th in San Francisco. Plotly is a Databricks select ISV partner with over 4,000 joint organizations that use Plotly and Databricks together with Dash. I will be there. A few other Plotly staff members will be there. So if you are going to be at the event, you can click on the link that my colleague Teresa or Jeannie are going to share in the Zoom chat to actually book an in-person event with one of us, right? One of the Plotly staff members, or just meeting with us. We are going to have 4 talks that are going to feature Plotly. One of them will be with S&P Global, the other one with SmartsTim, Mercedes-Benz, and Databricks. Also, I'm going to draw your attention to the fact that we're going to have a community meetup on June 12th. Now, what's cool about this meetup is that you don't have to have a ticket. You don't need a ticket to the Databricks Summit to actually attend this event. This event will be outside of the hall, the conference. We'll give you more details on social media later this week. So make sure to follow Plotly, the Plotly handle on LinkedIn, so you can get more details. But it's going to be on June 12th, somewhere around the evening hours, and you're going to have the opportunity to meet and greet with other people from within the Plotly data analysis and Databricks world. You'll have the opportunity to hear from Chris, the co-founder and the creator of Dash, learn about new open source initiatives and community programs that we are launching, and explore the newest features. I'm going to give a brief demo of the newest features of Dash and the Plotly graphing library, and we will go over the latest Dash app challenge with Databricks and large language models. In fact, I'm going to show you here right now. We actually already posted about this next Dash app challenge. It's the Databricks LLM with Dash app building challenge. My colleagues here will share this link in the chat. If not, or another way to reach it is just go into our Plotly form, just go into the search button and just search Databricks Dash challenge, and the first link will be this post. Now, I'm not going to go in the interest of time. I don't want to get to our speaker. I'm not going to go over the whole app challenge, but what you can see here is a couple of demos that I put together using the new Databricks large language model that came out at the end or mid-April. So I'm building a chatbot here with Dash and Databricks. I'm building a Pandas AI agent and one more example, RAG example for you to look at. So you have the code and you can build on top of it. You can read more about this challenge to know the details and what we ask for. You can see here the criteria that Plotly staff and potentially Databricks staff will use in order to judge these apps, and some financial rewards for the top 3 apps. Our main speaker. All right, so to get started, I'd like to introduce Anastasis as our guest speaker. Hey, Anastasis, how are you?
Hey, Adam. Hey, everyone.
Anastasis is the CEO of Dataphoria, which is a company that redefines the sustainability transition through data, and their goal is to propel the green revolution. In today's session, we'll be highlighting Anastasis' journey from a data scientist to a CEO in a thriving startup, while he shares important advice and lessons that he learned along the way. For example, throughout this hangout, you will hear things like technical advice for data scientists, business pointers for building a startup, leadership and management advice, and valuable knowledge about the green energy industry. So, Anastasis, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here. Excited to meet everyone in the community, and looking forward to the talk. Also to your questions, everyone. So yeah, feel free at any point.
Thank you, Anastasis, for that reminder. Again, for those who joined, I did say this the first like 30 seconds. For those who just joined us, your participation is encouraged, right? Anastasis and I are going to talk to each other. We're going to learn a lot about Anastasis, the startup, and the green energy. But this is the more you participate with questions or comments, the richer this hangout. So I look forward to hearing your questions. All right. So Anastasis, to get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Dataphoric?
All right. So I'm from Athens, Greece originally, and that's where I live now, by the way. My background is in civil engineering, so I started my studies in Athens, then moved to the UK to work as an engineer. Then at some point, I decided the career of an engineer had made its cycle for me, and I came back to the country, to Greece, and changed my professional path into a data scientist up until a couple of years ago when I started my first business, a green tech startup. So I became what we call a green tech entrepreneur. And that startup is Dataphoria, where in essence we are using data to help companies see how far along their own sustainability transition they are, and to help them make the right informed decisions to become even more sustainable.
Thank you, Anastasia. When you transitioned from an engineer to data science, was it a professional transition where you just jumped into the job and work, or did you also go into and study data science?
It was in essence by practice. So as I was in my previous job, I was spending nights and weekends learning how to become a data scientist. And until at some point, after experimenting, after doing a few projects on my own, I found my first opportunity in the sector.
Oh, cool. Was the first opportunity in Dataphoria, or was it something else?
Actually, it was a company undertaking behavioral analytics at the time.
Wow,
So it was a company focused on applying behavioral economics to understand consumer behavior and then provide this knowledge um, to other companies in order for them to optimize their consumer journeys along their own industries. And
nice.
so we were using data to find the underlying patterns that help us understand not only what customers say, but what they really think, feel, and act, which was quite interesting as an experience for myself as well. But it sort of lacked the impact element, the environmental impact element that I was looking in a job.
Well, this probably is a good transition to a little bit of Dataphoria. So, can you walk us through the path that you took or that led you to Dataphoria? How did it all get started?
Mhm. So maybe for that we need to go a bit back in the past. So when I finished high school, before starting university, together with a group of friends of mine, we decided to form an environmental team, and we called that team Time for Action because it was time to act for the environment. And we sort of started very imminently with cleanups in the beach we had close to where we lived, or reforestations in the mountain where we lived. And this escalated into a nationwide campaign where once per year, the same day at the same time, thousands of people would go out and do something for the environment. And that was coordinated by us as a volunteering endeavor. So I reached a point in my life where my professional orientation as a data scientist, had some professional impact, but then the actual real social environmental impact I wanted to achieve was done from, undertaken from volunteering um, endeavors of mine, including at that point being at the Global Shapers Community, an initiative of the World Economic Forum, a European Climate Pact ambassador. So I was saying that there are all these ways that technology can actually help the transition towards sustainability. But I myself was not applying that in my own life. Then I started thinking, how can we use data to advance the transition to sustainability? Luckily, I found myself a co-founder in the face of a longtime friend of mine who was an expert in sustainability, and we blended our two specialties.
Okay, so you blended your two specialties, and then how is that when Dataphoria started?
Yeah, almost 3 years ago. And basically, the gist is that companies nowadays are required to report on a number of what we call non-financial metrics. That's like ESG, environmental, social, and governance metrics. It's a number of different indicators about how a company affects the environment, or how it is affected by the environment, how it affects society meaning their employees, the communities they live in, or their value chains, and what types of governance they have. So these are all non-financial indicators that help show us whether a company is positioned to succeed or not. And it kind of makes sense, really. If an investor wanted to invest in a business today, in Europe, for example, or in Canada, and then make a significant return 20 or 30 years in the future, when Europe is going to be a net zero continent, then it's most likely that, if they invest in companies that are already working toward the path to net zero, they're going to be positioned to succeed. So the European Union, Canada, and other countries around the world have started to see this mega trend in how we should be helping companies that are performing well on the sustainability aspect. And now they're legally requiring companies to collect and showcase information on that level. If a company has a challenge like collecting financial data, which is numbers, qualitative data on the most part, imagine the difficulty for any business to collect data on environmental consumptions, HR, suppliers, how they affect the community, how they govern themselves. So what we're actually doing is we created connectors into all these different company systems, from ERPs to HR management softwares to simple spreadsheets that they might hold the information. We bring everything in a data lake in a single place, and then we perform certain specialized analysis to showcase this ESG performance for each business. And that's the analytics as a service model for sustainability that we apply as Dataphoria.
So, Anastasis, if I'm hearing you correctly, um, to just provide a brief summary on what you just said, um, European countries, the EU, other countries around the world are starting to require companies and organizations. They're requiring them to report on environmental, sustainability, and governance data, right? Just to stay in business, just as part of their national policies or European policies. And so this is something relatively new. And what Dataphoria does is you're helping these companies collect this data and present this data and create reports.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. That's correct. And mostly to find meaning within these very specialized, very rigorous data.
Okay. So now you mentioned data lakes. I also know you use Dash and Dash Enterprise for this. How how does Dash and Dash Enterprise come into play? Are you building dashboards for them, or what's happening?
Mhm. So basically, Dash has been our go-to tool for data visualization and dashboard design ever since the beginning. Adam, I remember watching your YouTube videos in order to learn how to deploy a Dash app on the web for the first time, which was 2, 3 years ago now. So basically, what we do is one thing is to collect the data and to analyze them and prepare them in the right and very structured format. Then we need to showcase them in an interactive, simplified way. And that's where Dash and Dash Enterprise come along. So it allows us to create beautiful, simplified, interactive dashboards to help non-technical personnel understand the things they need to take care of for their own sustainability transition.
So every company, how does that work? Every company has their own dashboard that you create for them?
We have a few basic ones that showcase specific APIs per industry. And for specific companies that are quite advanced in their own sustainability journey, we do prepare personalized dashboards with the metrics that it makes sense for them to see. In essence, most companies are required to report on a couple of hundreds of metrics, and we take these and distill the essence driving sustainability from, going from 100 KPIs to the top 10, 20, 30 KPIs that make the absolute sense for you to know and monitor.
Nice, interesting. So you what I really like about this Dataphoria and your story and how things developed is that you were able to convert uh, a very positive mission, right? A mission of positive impact in their environment um, to to a business, right? You're a startup, you have revenue, and that's not necessarily something that's very easy. A lot of people have great ideas. They want to improve the world, have a positive impact in the world, but to go from there to actually turn into revenue businesses is often very hard. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that experience was for you?
Absolutely. And I have to say, I was quite surprised in the beginning myself when we started Dataphoria. So the draft version was an NGO helping companies and other NGOs, become more sustainable because it felt like such a good cause. At that time, I was very lucky to be involved with the global shapers of the World Economic Forum, where I started seeing this concept of stakeholder capitalism, it is called, and it talks about how businesses nowadays should not just be in it for the profit, but also in order to make a lasting social and environmental impact. So all the more we are seeing more and more impact-driven businesses out there that create financially viable business models, whilst at the same time contributing to sustainability. This is an amazing notion for me. What I often find about NGOs is the lack of funds or the dependency from people, donors who are not really the ones receiving the value from what we do. With an impact-driven business, you can keep making the world a better place as long as you add value to your customers. And that to me is a mega trend that's here to stay. You might have heard of impact investors, for example, people that want to invest in such financially viable but impact-driven businesses. We received impact investment at Dataphoria. So there's a new generation of entrepreneurs wanting to change the world in a very positive way and also, get some financial returns out of it.
What kind of challenges? Because you're a startup, and startups are obviously not easy. What kind of challenges ha did you face, and are you facing as a startup in this area, right? ESG.
So the most critical thing for us in the beginning was to find our market fit. The technology can be there, and I'm a data scientist. I'm a Dash practitioner, so I know that firsthand. It's quite a challenge to find the people who will get the most value out of what we're building, and the unique way in which we are building. And for that, you need to be out there talking to customers all the time. It's quite difficult trying to also educate people on ESG at the same time because it's something so new, constantly changing. The regulations are evolving by the month, really. So you're trying to understand the needs of your client whilst at the same time educating them and trying to see how technology fits into that. Now, the great power that comes with a startup is flexibility. So once we understand the direction we need to move towards, it's quite straightforward to pivot and explore these opportunities. And that's how we found our market fit at this stage, at least.
Cool. Um, What about you mentioned also reminded to everybody here if you have any I know I'm asking Anastasis a lot of questions, but if you have any questions about for Anastasis about Dash or Plotly, any other tools or general questions about his career, definitely feel free to unmute yourself, share them, or ask them in the chat, and I'll make sure that Anastasis sees. Anastasis, you mentioned time for action, right? And you mentioned that the time for action initiative, which which you started before Dataphoria, garnered a reach of what, like tens of thousands of people. How how are you able to do that? Like people can only dream of creating such a impactful initiative that goes viral and gets people to participate. What did you do in order to get so many people in Greece, I think you said, to participate in this initiative?
So actually, the last year before the pandemic, because we started again this year. So the last year we held this campaign in 2019. We mobilized 120,000 volunteers, same day, same time, all over Greece. That's around 1% of the country's population. That's something we built over 10 years of campaigning, of traveling all over the country, of meeting with people face to face, understanding their anxieties, their needs with regards to the environment, and sort of think that people were ready for something to make us all come together and do something for the environment, one big declarative action. Um, Part of this experience has been very helpful in running Dataphoria as well, from how to lead teams, how to make strategic decisions, how to start something from the beginning. In essence, it started as a mutual effort of a group of 20-year-olds, and very authentically, very true to what we believed. We just started, finding our tribe all over Greece, and yeah, with a lot of effort over a lot of years, this happened, and I'm very
And that
happy it did.
and that's important to like to reiterate, right? A lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to do something good for the world and or a cool business, and it's going to go viral, and we'll have thousands of participants. Maybe if you're lucky with the timing and the language, but usually these things require years of work, right? You mentioned 10 years of traveling around, talking to potential volunteers, doing surveys, understanding why they volunteer, for what purpose, their thoughts on environment, and with all that knowledge and that effort, finally you had something that grew and blossomed into something beautiful. Right, 1% of the Greek population to volunteer for this initiative is like beyond my wildest dreams. So, really nice job.
Thank you, Adam. Beyond mine as well, I have to say.
Um, because I have one question from one of our uh, uh, participants here, one of our viewers. Um, Muhammad is asking, how did you, Dataphoria, go about choosing your uh, tech stack?
So basically, the data department of Dataphoria for the first year and a half or so was yours truly. So basically, it was my decision on what I was good at. So I knew Python. So there we go. I was a data scientist. So Jupyter notebooks at the time, pipelines and the such. And at the same time, when we were discussing visualization, we were contemplating either going for a point and click dashboard app, the usual types, or to go for something a bit more scalable and repeatable. um, Another part within the application, also, it's not just about visualization of results. It's also about certain elements of user management, some forms to input some data in there. And we found that the library that was able to help us undertake this in a fully developed app that provided customization even at the open source level, because a startup just in the beginning should had to rely on open source, was Dash. So that's what got us in. With practice, we got into high levels of customization and providing beautiful, simplified, even mobile-friendly apps. So now the whole team is very adept on Dash, and what we've built there, we keep on building, and it's gotten a lot more straightforward.
Anastasis, remind me, did you know um, Plotly and Dash before starting Dataphoria? Did you have experience with those libraries?
Yeah, I had some experience from data visualization. Well, yeah, really got to know them when we had to deploy our first dashboard with Dataforia. That was the first time I had ever deployed a full stack dashboard from the beginning.
And do you remember when you discovered Plotly? Was it around that time? Because I find that people usually discover the Plotly graphing library first, and then they build like fully fledged analytic dashboard out of it with Dash. Was your experience discovering Plotly at the same time or a bit before?
Yeah, so that was my path, like Plotly, definitely a long time before going into Dash. And I have to say, I'm gonna geek out here for a bit. I definitely prefer the graph objects library to the Express library. I'm one of these people that want to, have all the list of arguments just the way I need it for visualization.
Yeah,
So don't
I
know
hear
if
that
any other
sometimes.
graph object fans are out there, but yeah.
Graph objects are is extremely powerful, right? Because you can do anything you want with it. But but yes, most people are uh, different than you in that sense. They prefer the Poly Express. It's a lot faster, one line of code. Uh, but spoken like a true data scientist, wants to go deep into the weeds and create your graphs.
I mean, in our business, data storytelling matters when we want people to understand the different nuances and elements of carbon footprint and where they can do better and when not. We want them to see something absolutely beautiful with the rounded corners, with the right font, with the right colors, with the right cover message when they're on there. Like in terms of like sustainability data in general, it doesn't have that kind of granularity. It's usually collected on a quarterly or an annual level or on a monthly level tops. And it has only been collected for a few years. So there are no bespoke analysis you can currently run on ESG data. We're not there yet. But what you can really do is tackle this from a data storytelling perspective and make sure you have the most simplified, analytical, uh, correct, like, beautiful data story to share with your customers. That comes with a high level of customization.
Now, within your position as a CEO, do you still have time to build some of these graphs and dashboards, or at least reflect on them, or provide like your feedback on them, or it's other people in your team?
I really shouldn't, so I try to to avoid this to the greatest extent. It might be a guilty pleasure over some weekends, but for the most part, we've transitioned into a senior data scientist who will soon be undertaking the whole role of head of data within Dataphoria, and now I'm focusing on the business and strategy aspect as a CEO should.
Oh, well, you have a strong discipline because the challenge with Plotly and Dash is once you start building with it, you can't stop. I get sucked into it. It's like I got to build this graph, I got to change this line, I got to curve this bar chart, I got to add this drop down, and I got to make it perfect. And I can be in there for like hours. I forget to eat, to drink, and you're lucky that you're able to have the discipline to stay away.
Oh yeah, my team is contemplating giving me a laptop that does not have this much computational power. Just take the temptation off my hands. But we'll see how we'll manage. But it's a great creative process as well. I mean, we are creating illustrations that can help simplify concepts for the world, that can help the world understand different stories, different concepts, and that's highly creative. And I think one of the reasons we love being data scientists.
Yeah. Um, I do want to go in a few minutes back to your role as a CEO and talk a little bit about that, what it entails, how you got there, what you're proud of. But before that, uh, Mohammed did talk about tech stack. I do want to piggyback on that and talk about tools. So, what kind of tools, though, do Dataforia staff members use as part of their development process?
So we basically have two large chunks within that process. So first one is ETL, how we get the data in. Then the other one is analytics and visualization, which is where we use DAS mostly. For the ETL aspect, we have different connectors built into Jupyter Notebooks instance, through which we can connect through various APIs to various databases in company systems or different files, spreadsheets, and whatnot. And then we transfer everything into an Azure data lake. Then from there, we have a different process that uses these files from the data lake to be consumed into structured databases ever so often as we need, so with some basic scheduling. And then basically these databases are what Dash Enterprise Graphs consume and showcase the results. So that's the entire process we develop at Dataphoria, basically using simple tools that any data scientist should, such as Jupyter environment, Azure data lakes and databases, and a DAS app for visualization.
Thank you for that, Anastasis. When we have one question from Mingo, when you and your team started building apps, what resources did you find most helpful for learning how to use Dash?
Apart from your videos, Adam, that was number one resource. The community was so helpful. The forums have such a wealth of information. So that's what I was using at the time. And mainly, I think it's one of the drivers of deciding to use Dash at the end of the day. I tried a bit like different options, but it was the only one where I could find like, basic user management or other information that the data scientist wouldn't really know that, but like we could really put into practice there. Nowadays, if I was starting, ChatGPT, of course, by a mile. And I think what really contributes to the knowledge is trying to building things ourselves. So following the tutorial is great, is perfect, but until the time that you start to create something of your own, even if it's like a pet project, you won't be able to see the actual challenges, the actual processes of any application. So that's also what I look for when I'm hiring data scientists for Dataphoria. If someone has run a number of personal projects, that's a big green flag for us.
Okay, let me repeat that last part because it's important. I'm sure people viewing us today and listening to us might be asking this question as well, right? What does a CEO of a startup, of a data company, data app building company, what does a CEO look for in potential employees? And you said one of the things, we'll go into this a little bit later, but one of the things you do look for is the practical experience of building dashboards already.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Got it. Another question I have here from Pianki. What type of source code and programming languages do you use? And if it's not you specifically, Anastasis, as a CEO, but your senior data scientist,
Yeah.
source code and programming languages.
So Python is all we use. Everything we do is built on Python. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Going back to the question, to your answer regarding the tools that you use. So you said there's really two different sections. There's a data pipeline process, which you're using Azure for Microsoft Azure for data lakes, and then you clean the data, you organize it, and then Dash and Plotly, Dash Enterprise pulls from those databases and actually creates dashboards and the visualization. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Another question I had is ETA. Well, this is actually something that you mentioned, or I think you asked me, Anastasis. If this is still relevant, we can ask the question. If not, we can skip it. But something that you asked me is ETA pipeline versus Dash apps are like two different repositories. Does it make sense to combine everything together? Is that something you wanted to ask about?
Basically, I feel this also might be a good opportunity for us to explore synergies that we see between Dash and Databricks. I feel there could be a way of a bit of context. We were discussing with Adam on how to perhaps unify the two separate processes I just mentioned before, have like, a super platform that has everything in. Um, we're still contemplating that, and maybe the synergy between Dash and Databricks provides, some room for exploration there, I should say.
So tell me please a little bit more about that, Anastasis. I'm interested in two reasons. One, because I don't have a lot of experience personally with Databricks, but I know we there is a lot in there. Over four, like I mentioned at the beginning of the Hangout, over 4,000 organizations use Plotly with Databricks and Dash. Um, so how can the summit is coming up soon in San Francisco, the Databricks summit? How how can the combination of Dash and Databricks potentially combine these two processes that you talked about?
Yeah, so right now, actually, from seeing how well Databricks works with Dash, from all the sort of examples that have been coming our way, we are contemplating using Databricks for our pipeline and see how this can sort of automate the process into Dash. It's something under development by our tech team at the time, so I'd be looking to learn a bit more about that as well. So if anybody has any experience on Databricks X Dash, please let us know.
Cool. Well, we're gonna have when we share the video, can we share Anastasis your LinkedIn profile as well?
Absolutely.
Perfect. That's a great way for anybody who wants to ask Anastasis questions after this hangout, who wants to contact him or provide more information around the advantages of using Dash together with Databricks. Feel free to reach out to him. My profile will be there as well if you want to ask me questions. Okay. Um, oh, Jenny, thank you for sharing Anastasis' LinkedIn right now in the Zoom chat. All right, so let's move towards your role as a CEO. Brief overview, Anastasis. What are your main responsibilities as the CEO of Dataphoria?
Right. So I've taken a number of business responsibilities myself. My first and foremost responsibility is to make sure the company does not run out of money, and that's basically the main job, if not the only job of a CEO. Other than that, it's bringing in new business, so focusing on client acquisition, understanding their needs, understanding how our offering can serve their needs in a unique and very compelling way. Team culture within the team, and also what we call, what's next, a bit of R&D, a bit of ideation, a bit of development of our product. And these are the main functions I find myself working in.
Does it include a lot of traveling, or you're mainly staying in home base Greece?
I'm trying to stay in home-based Greece as much as I can because CO2 emissions as well, but it includes some traveling, and I can't complain there. I'm going to be visiting Canada quite soon, I should say.
Oh, nice. Where in Canada are you going to be?
Yeah, in Toronto,
Oh,
actually
wow.
mid-June for the Collision Conference. That's a big world tech conference
All right.
happening in Toronto every year.
Nice, nice. Okay, so those are the CEO responsibilities in Dataphoria. Is there any experience prior to Dataphoria or at the beginning of Dataphoria that helped you prepare for your role as CEO? Right, CEO is an awesome role. A lot of people want to be CEOs in their companies or companies they're enjoying, and they will probably like to know like how can I best prepare myself for a CEO role?
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel any leadership position, any initiative you can be a part of can really help prepare you for the role of a founder or a CEO. For me personally, it was being part of that group of friends that started Time for Action, as mentioned. It was other initiatives as well at every level of my professional aspect, leading the graduates and students group at the first company I worked in the UK, or chairing another young professionals organization again some point in the UK, or being the curator for the Athens hub of the Global Shapers. All these different initiatives that puts us in a position to work with other people to create teams, inspire teams, and deliver results. can really contextualize what it feels like working with people and build this empathy that you would need as a CEO and the strategy you would need as a CEO as well.
Okay, so I heard one of the few things that really help a CEO in their job is developing empathy, knowing how to lead projects and initiatives, knowing how to or developing skills and experience and encouraging people and incentivizing people to do volunteer activities or to do things together and to get excited about the mission. So all of that from what you said is things that help you as a CEO. What about right now, the CEO, you mentioned one of the main responsibilities is business and fundraising or reaching out to companies. Is there anything that in your studies or your experience prepared you for that?
Yeah, basically, I fundraised quite a lot in my life, so I did a bit of the same thing. It's just that instead of pitching to donors, we were pitching to investors, for example. So again, it's a bit of trying to understand and focus on that specific situation and something you learn by doing as well. So my first pitch was nowhere near my 100th pitch at any potential business partner or any potential investors. Especially at startups, you learn by doing like a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Jeannie, my colleague, did remind me that Plotly is actually going to be at the Collision conference too. So I'll give you the names of the Plotly staff members. I'll write you on LinkedIn, Anastasis,
Oh,
and I'll try.
fantastic.
I'll connect you with the Plotly staff members that will be there, so you can get to meet them.
Fantastic.
Um, Another topic I want to go back to as a CEO is the hiring process, right? What are important things that you look for when you hire data scientists, data analysts in Dataphoria?
Mhm. So, two main elements in that. First of all, a good technical acumen, quite important to understand how people can function and work and create in essence, and how well they grasp the concepts of data science and data visualization. Experience with the tools we are using, of course, is always a big indicator. But then the second equally important element for us is adherence to the values of the companies. So we are looking for people who want to stay curious, who are acting for impact, who are impact driven, who in their own way, everyday form, they consider others and who strive to be the best. So in essence, through a rigorous process, we've made our mistakes, we've seen what works, what doesn't. We're trying to find people that can contribute to the values and culture of Dataphoria, what the rest of us are. They are, they're equally great in their technical acumen. And it's quite important for us as the first few hires. So we are 8 strong right now at Dataphoria. And those first people, they shape the business. They shape the culture. It's not just myself, it's the people that are there every day. So it's one of the greatest responsibilities to fill in these places with the right people that will be able to elevate Dataphoria to new heights alongside myself and my co-founder.
Anastasis, it's hiring look or confirming that there are um, the required experience and tech skills needed um, is well, you can look at their piece of paper, you can get a resume, you can give them tests. That's probably doable. But how do you what can people do when they're applying for jobs like this and for startups to prove to the hiring manager and CEOs that they are and will be motivated people that care about the culture, that care about the company, that care about going beyond the normal expectations? Are there any things that they can build or show or say that they can shine light on that motivation?
The most relevant, the most transparent like motivator in that sense is having personal projects on your own portfolio, having a portfolio to begin with, right? We are data scientists. Using computer, we can create anything we want, any data project we want, and with any data set on something that brings a lot of meaning and passion to ourselves. I remember when I was looking for a job, I started experimenting with some wildfire data. And this is how I discovered, for example, geo data manipulation and geo visualizations, which was quite interesting to me, just, just myself. But this paid off because I created a portfolio with a personal project about something I was very passionate about that no one else had done something similar. And that's really what we're looking for in people, this passion, this context, this way of showing us that they can create things they love in a very nice and very well-standing way.
I'd like to reiterate that, Anastasis, because I've talked to other CEOs and other hiring managers, and I often see this repeated. What you just said, like they motivation and initiative is very important for them to see in the people that they hire. And one of the best ways to show that, beyond the moment of the interview, is to show the things that you've built, right? If it's in the data science world, if it's actually possible. So your own portfolio, like you said, with Dash, you can create, even with open source Dash, you create your own website in Python with your own apps that you've put together, your own visualizations, and you can have this as your platform, a way to show the world, potential employers, what you've built, what you care about, what motivates you. So I just wanted to repeat that because I know I hear this a lot from other hiring managers. Um, Anastasis, I have a question by uh, Kutavas. Uh, Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. I'm sorry if I'm not. How are you deploying your Dash apps, for example, Azure App Service, container apps, etc.? How are you deploying them, and what challenges have you faced in deployment?
Ah, a lot of challenges as I had to learn everything from the beginning, especially in the early days. Initially, for the early apps, we were using EC2 instances at AWS. Right now, we solved this problem by, after we got the funding, going to Dash Enterprise. Now that's taken care for us, and I can sleep a bit better at night.
You can sleep a bit at night now that you got Dash Enterprise for app
Yeah,
deployment.
and don't have to check like, 20 containers. Are they running? Is everything okay? What happened here? What updates there? So yeah.
Right, right. Good point. I have another question from Mingo. What are some of the most useful Python packages your team is using in your Dash apps alongside Dash and Plotly?
hmm Mingo, that's a great question. Let me ask my team and get back to you because I'm not allowed to touch code, as as mentioned before.
Cool. He says thank you. All right. Cool. Anastasis, to close us out, one thing that we like to do is uh, end the hangout with concrete suggestions or advice for our viewers and listeners. What advice would you like to share with our audience?
Um, of course, it's going to be an impact-driven advice coming from a green tech entrepreneur. So we are all technical people. We know how to manipulate technology. We know how to manipulate data, especially, which is like all the more important. You cannot imagine how many problems in the world need your skills right now. So what I would like to leave you with is find that small element that you want to make better in this world. And please, please, please apply your knowledge, your philosophy, your technology to contribute to a more sustainable world because we really need you to.
Thank you, Anastasis. I'm going to close us out. I'm going to give our viewers and listeners a couple of seconds to ask final questions or comments if you want before we end this. In the meantime, I just wanted to remind everybody to participate in the app challenge. The app challenge was shared in the chat here at the very beginning. And also in the video, we'll have, whether on YouTube, on LinkedIn, of this Hangout in the video recording, we are going to share a link to the app challenge so you can get started. get a head start because it is until June 30th to build a large language model using Databricks and Dash for the user interface. Also, if you are in or around San Francisco, come visit us at the community meetup we're going to have there during the Data AI Summit. I'm in New York and I'm going there, so you have no excuse wherever you live. You should come visit us and see us at the community meetup. And and that's it. I'm going to close us out. I don't see any questions. Thank you so much, Anastasis, for joining us, and I'll see you around.